Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Utah Board of Water Resources Electronic Board Briefing Meeting. Today is Thursday, January 28th, 2021. It is now 10:01 in the morning when we're beginning our briefing meeting. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. First off, we'll read the COVID-19 electronic meeting notice. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ability of the virus to spread from person to person, the governor has implemented a number of executive orders directed at controlling spread of the virus by minimizing face-to-face interactions. Public gatherings are strongly discouraged by the CDC, state of Utah, and local health departments since they facilitate face-to-face contact and pose an elevated risk for virus transmission. The Division of Water Resources and the chair of this public body have determined that public gathering at Board of Water Resource meetings presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who attend. As such, this meeting will be conducted using a fully electronic format. This meeting format is authorized by recent amendment of the Utah Code and executive order by Utah Governor Gary Herbert and will be temporarily used in place of the in-person public meetings that usually occur around the state. Anyone wishing to comment on agenda topics in future meetings or to observe this meeting may do so by logging on to the division's website at www.water.utah.gov/comments/ and links are provided there. So with that, welcome those who are here. We will have a roll call first from the board members. So going through a little protocol before we do that, if you can keep your microphones muted except for when you're talking, that would be appreciated. It helps reduce some of the feedback. If you're on a cell phone device, *6, use that to mute or unmute. A Control-D key on the computer if you need to do that. As you unmute your mic and speak, if you can identify yourself also, that would be appreciated. So let's go through a roll call vote. First of the board members. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren. I am present.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Kyle just texted me and said he's having some Wi-Fi issues. He's going to keep working on it, so he may be right back.
Okay. If he comes back, we'll note that he has been with us up till now, but just barely dropped off. Okay. Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning, Juliet. And there was Kyle. It sounds like Kyle is back also. Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
I'm here.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Present.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I'm here. Thank you.
Lower Colorado River, Jim Lemon.
Here.
And my name is Blaine Ibsen, and I represent the Sevier Rivers, and I'm obviously here.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that was background noise. It doesn't look like Kyle is on yet. So.
Oh, okay. So Kyle is not back with us yet. When he gets back on, if you can identify it, and we'll recognize him in attendance. Thank you. Director Adams, will you please identify other attendees to this meeting, staff members and others?
Sure, be more than happy to. Thank you so much. It's good to see everyone. I'm just going to go down the list of the 27 or so that are here, and you've introduced some of the board members already. So we have a couple board members that are on their phones. We've got Ben Marett, Candace Hassenjager, Carmen McDonald, Jaqueline Pacheco, Joe Williams, Kim Wells, Lindsay Russell, Marty Bushman, McKenna Murray, Randy Staker, Russell Hadley, Scott McGettigan, Shalane DiBernardi, Tom Cox. Unknown, I believe, is showing up as Jim Lemon today. And I think that's it. Paul Gedge and our IT group, and of course myself.
Okay, thank you. And we really appreciate Paul and Carmen and I don't know if Mike is with us today or not, but we couldn't do this without their assistance. And thank you very much, Paul and Carmen, and Mike, if you're there also. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I missed one. Marisa Egbert, and she's on with her phone today too. So, and Kyle's back.
Okay, Kyle, we're just doing a roll call. You're back with us now, is that right?
I think so. Hopefully it'll work this time.
Okay, well, welcome. Okay, on our agenda, let's go into our agenda now of our briefing meeting, and we've just done the welcome and do a little chair report. I just was hoping that by now that we would be able to do this in person. I miss seeing each of you in person and the interactions we have there, but I appreciate your perseverance. I appreciate the staff and all that they're doing behind the scenes. And wow, it continues to amaze me, the dedication that staff has to doing their jobs. And I don't see all of what they're doing, but I do get to see in my position a part of it. And I truly appreciate what staff is doing and just wanted to convey that, all the work that's going on. It is dry. We will have statewide, we will have a report in the main meeting on that. So I'm just hoping that this storm pattern will pick up and go on. We're now into a busy session in the year. The legislative is going on, legislature, and we have a new governor, and lots of different things are going on right now, and along with the many things that we already have on our platter. So appreciate everybody's effort. It takes a whole team, a whole community to make this work, and water really is important. So appreciate each of you board members and your service as well. So that's my report for today. I'd like to invite Director Adams. Apparently there's some new staff. If you'd like to do that, introduce them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're very excited at the division to welcome a new staff member in a great and difficult time in COVID. And the new individual, I'll let Scott McGettigan introduce, because she works in Scott's section and works with Scott. So Scott.
Yes, thanks, Todd, and thanks to the Mr. Chairman and members of the board for this opportunity to introduce McKenna Murray. She's our newest section employee in the interstate stream section. And as you're aware, the Colorado River issues have been difficult and challenging, and they're only becoming more difficult and challenging. So we're adding another employee to help us out with these challenges, and she's already jumped in and doing a great job. And I've been working in the section for about a month or so. So she comes from a background of hydrology and groundwater, and she actually even worked for the Department of Environmental Quality before she came here with us. So we're excited to have her, and I'll let her tell her more about herself. And go ahead, McKenna, and introduce yourself to the board. Thanks.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. Like Scott said, my name is McKenna Murray. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, but I'm really happy to be in Utah. It's good to be in the Upper Basin. And I got my undergraduate in environmental science from Brigham Young University, and my graduate degree in hydrology from University of Nevada, Reno. And yeah, I worked for the Department of Environmental Quality for a year, but I'm really excited to be at DNR and with the Department of Water Resources working on interstate stream issues. And it's been a good start, and look forward to working with you.
Great. Welcome aboard, McKenna, and we look for great things from you. Okay, let's move to item 2 on our briefing agenda, discussion of agenda items. Before we do that, let's just review a little bit of the protocol of what we will do when we get in our board meeting later today, as far as how things will flow. First, we'll have a report from the staff member that's assigned over the project manager. Then we'll hear from the applicant, and then there will be any questions that board members may have to the applicant or to the project manager from staff. Then we'll ask Randy if there's been any public comments. on that. And then we'll have an opportunity to have the board discuss it, see if there's any clarification issues that need to take place. And after that, then we will, at that point, get to the time when it's time for motion on the project. And we'll need a motion and a second. Again, board members, if you'll identify yourself when you speak on this, whether it be to ask a question or to make a motion or second the motion, if you'll just please identify yourself. And the motion doesn't come until after we've gone through those other steps and the thing. And then we'll have the roll call voting after the end of that. So with that, just as far as our protocol on how we'll do it, let's go to the agenda and go over the items that are going to be on the 1 o'clock board meeting. The first thing on the board meeting will be approval of the minutes from our last meetings. Board members, I assume you've had a chance to look at the minutes and go through them, and at the board meeting we'll entertain a motion to accept them or with any changes that may be. For right now though, do any of you board members have any suggestions or clarifications or changes on the two sets of minutes that were given the last meeting?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. In the briefing meeting on page 2, I think there's just a spelling error where it refers to the lateral ditches of the West Cass Irrigation Company. It's Hanson and Ezola instead of X. I think the spelling there, they have it down as EXOLA. It should be EZOLA, I believe.
Okay, appreciate that. Did you pick up on that, Lindsay? Have you got what you need on that then? Yes, okay, good.
She's got it. We'll make sure we get that changed. Thanks. You are right, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just seeing that with Lindsay responded back with a comment on that. Remember that the any comments you make, whether verbal or in the responses that way, they are all part of the public record. So any other comments or suggestions, clarifications on either of these sets of minutes that anyone has? Okay, well, when we get to the main meeting, we will have entertain a motion and a second and vote on approving the minutes then. The next item on the board meeting agenda is the NRCS snow report. I'm assuming Clayton will be here to do that. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct. He'll do that. Mr. Chairman, we also in the board meeting will need to potentially change the order of the agenda, right. And we would like or propose that you move the interstate streams appointment to one of the first things. Gene Shawcroft would like to be at the board meeting, and I've invited him, but he has some other commitments later on, and so we'd like to move that sooner rather than later, if that's the prerogative of the board.
Okay, and so board, with that, I was tentatively thinking having it right after the snow report, but it's probably be better to accommodate Gene if we moved that maybe just right after the minutes. Either one would be fine. Yeah. Yep. So board members, do any of you have any concerns, issues with moving the interstream appointment component of our agenda to right after the minutes in our main meeting? Any of you have any problem with us doing that?
I don't have a problem. This is Wayne.
Okay. I see Juliet shaking her head. You're okay with it? Okay. Norm?
I'm okay.
Charles?
Yeah, I'm fine with it, Mr. Chairman. We can amend the agenda to that. I'm good with that.
Okay. Kyle?
No problems.
Jim?
Yes.
Randy?
No problem.
Okay. Well, with that then, we will put that item right after the approval of the minutes. So that being the case, let's go with that flow right now. and let's talk about that item that will be on the agenda. It's under the item interstate stream appointments, and it's two components to that. Vote to ratify Governor Cox's appointments of Utah's representatives and Gene Shawcroft on the Upper Colorado River Commission, Todd Adams on the Bear River Commission. And so that's what is on the agenda. I know that in the past, historically, the Director of Water Resources has always been the representative on the Upper Colorado River Commission. Governor Cox now wants to have it be changed. We've also had representation on the Bear River Commission. And so with that, Director Adams, would you like to lead a discussion right now on that? Give us some background.
I can give you a little bit of background. With the change in governor, it's the prerogative of the governor and the board to select a representative on the commissions, whether it be Bear or otherwise. I have a letter from the governor to the Upper Colorado River Commission chair, and it does notify them that the governor has selected Gene Shawcroft as a representative on the Upper Colorado River Commission, and placed me as an alternate and an advisor, as well as a couple other alternates, which would be Teresa Wilhelmsen and Candace Hosenjager. And we would also be, trusted advisors and our staff in helping through the Colorado River issues. As this happens, as things are happening with this, we're going to meld this to work with Gene as a bigger and broader team that we can be more responsive and more work. There's going to be a lot more work in the next several years as we go into the renegotiations of the guidelines. And so we're welcoming this help, and we're looking forward to moving on. That's what I would present to you.
Todd, this is Wayne. There has been one question come up, and I just need a little clarification on it from myself. He's being appointed to the Upper Colorado Basin Commission. What does that does he still represent the state then in all Colorado River matters?
Yes,
Even affecting the lower basin and stuff and so forth.
Yes, he will take the lead on that as the Upper Colorado River Commissioner and working through all Colorado River Basin issues with the upper and the lower. We will still be involved. Myself, Scott, Candace, McKenna, Marty, Norm Johnson, the other Norm Johnson will be working on the Colorado River issues.
Thank you.
I have a question just on the correlation. It has been nice and convenient and seems like it's been a good fit through the years to have where the Board of Water Resources sometimes has signatory obligations or things like that on some of the different things. How is that going to work as far as if, we have Gene being the commissioner and all that, he's still going to have to work closely with the board and things like that, is he not?
Yeah, Gene will represent the state of Utah and through the Board of Water Resources, and still have to come back and have discussions, whether it's Gene or myself or Candace or Teresa, will have discussions with the board as we understand it right now. We have a meeting with Gene tomorrow, and we're still just going to try to figure out how we're going to work forward into all of this. It's fairly new, but this is the will of the current administration, and that's what we're going to work towards. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Just a question for Todd. Will Gene want to address the board before we vote on his ratification of his appointment, or whether that's necessary or not? Just curious.
That'll be the prerogative of the board if you would like. I don't think Gene is planning on addressing the board, but he will be here for discussion. So, this is going to be a bigger, better team going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, comments, clarification?
Mr. Chairman, Candace would like to address.
Okay, good.
Blaine, I think you had some great questions, and I think those would be great questions for Gene Shawcroft on how he envisions, or you guys all envision him working together. I think that would be good clarifying information to know whether Gene wants Todd to report or if Gene intends to be here. I think that's good information to know.
Okay, thank you. That you know, we will be following the protocol on this of, you know, we will first have this is noted up on the agenda, and I will read the agenda item, and then just like kind of what we did here, ask Director Adams to give us kind of some background information on it, what it is and all that kind of stuff. And then I think we would just follow our normal protocol that, okay, we have the little presentation, then we can ask questions, the board can ask questions, and of the applicant, so to say. Only Gene's not really an applicant like somebody is coming in for funding or whatever, but the board definitely would be able to ask questions, and then the board could have a discussion among themselves, and we will be asking Randy if there's been any public comments on this, and then we can go back and the board will say, okay, is there any last minute clarification, and then have the motion and see if there's any clarification on the motion, and go from there. So I think that would, you know, if any of you board members have questions like that, it would be appropriate maybe to ask Gene or ask Todd or whoever at the time. So that's how I envision this going anyway.
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, can I make just a comment?
Please.
You know, I worked with Gene, you know, on and off over the years, and Gene's very capable, but I mean, we've still got Todd and Candace and the rest of our people there, you know, and I, you know, and Gene answers to a board of directors that covers a large area of the state as well. And so I think that there will be, you know, good communication with Gene, and he's a good man, and I think he'll do us a good job.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I go back, what, about dating myself a little bit, but I go back 40 years when I first got to know Gene. We were fellow engineering students in college. His wife was in the same religious congregation that my wife was in. And so I know Gene from a long time as far as that. And so I do know Gene. And like you say, Randy, this is not how this has caught me personally off guard. I think that the division staff and director has done a fantastic job through the years with dealing with the Colorado issues. And I think they're very capable. But as Director Adams said, our present administration wants to go a slightly different direction now. It's caught me off guard, and I have mixed feelings about it personally. But as Director Adams said, I think it does strengthen the team. I think it adds some communications, possibly some additional hurdles that we'll have to deal with, some additional logistical things, but it can be a very good thing from my perspective, although I've had mixed feelings on it personally. But other directors, Jim and Norm, you're going to be most directly impacted by it. In the Colorado River drainage, what are your thoughts?
My thought, this is Norman. My thoughts are a lot like yours. I was caught a little off guard and a little surprised about it all, even though I do know Gene. He's a nice guy. I guess I'm struggling a little bit with the reason for change. Why do we need to change? If something's not broke, why do we want to fix it?
You'd have to ask Governor Cox that question, I think. I don't know.
I understand that.
I think, this is Wayne, I think I can shed a little bit of light on that. the Division of Natural Resources and the Water Group been hamstrung to a certain degree by the governor and the state legislature. In my opinion, they haven't given Todd and his group the funding and the people necessary to really attack the problem and the issues on the Colorado River. And I think maybe Governor Cox has recognized that and is trying to put a little more emphasis on the importance of the Colorado River, which I think is really, really important, because if you want to know the truth, compared to the other states in the Colorado River Compact and stuff, we're behind the 8 ball as far as having sound information on water, how much water there is, how much is being used, a number of those issues that are going to be very important as we come into this renegotiation again. And I just think Governor Cox recognizes that we need to put a little more emphasis and have a little more power as we go to the negotiating table.
Okay, thank you. Jim.
Well, after Director Adams talked to me, I wondered for a little bit about it, but as I've thought about it, I think maybe in the long run, it'll take a little more pressure off of him, and as well as he will still be involved to know what's going on, might give us a little more clout having more of them directly involved.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion on, and we've been focusing right now, it's a 2-part thing, and right now we're focusing on the Upper Colorado River Commission, and that's what we're talking about right now. We'll come to the Bear River in just a minute. But any other questions on the Upper Colorado Commission with Jim?
This is Randy again, just one comment. I mean, when you talk about the major water users, the water users in the Uintah Basin are still the largest users on the Colorado River.
That's true.
And so they need protected, and I think because of the fact that there is board members from this area as well, that Gene will understand and help protect the rights of all of us in Utah. So,
yeah,
whether we like it or not, this is probably the avenue we're going down. So I think you got to make the best of it and move forward and make things work.
I appreciate that, Randy, and you're exactly right. The Colorado River, got your area, got Jim's area, got Norm's area. We have Wayne's area with the exchanges that also goes up into Juliet's area. So a good part of the state is covered with this.
Mr. Chair, just to go on record with comment, I think that's like what I'm most concerned about, is that the person who's in that position is looking out for all of the water users and for the entire state's interest. And so we'll just probably need to, Gene will know this, but we should emphasize that to Gene. And then I would just ask you, Todd, and ask you, Candace, to, do what you can do. Let us know how we can be helpful there. Do what you can do to help Gene in that position. I think that's just going to be the most critical. I'm okay with this. If this is what our governor wants, I think we should be supportive of our governor. But that's when I heard about this, it gave me pause for a minute. It took me a little bit to get okay with it, just because I really want to make sure that the entire state's interests are looked after.
Mr. Chairman, I will tell you that Gene and I have had more than 1 or 2 dialogues about that. Gene is well aware that he will now be representing the state of Utah, even though he has his other hat. Yes, that's a discussion item that we've had several times, and we are concerned about that. But he will be acting in behalf of the state for the governor and for all of Utahns.
Thank you. Well, and coming back to Candace's observation earlier, Juliet, that might be when it's time to ask questions to bring that up, because that's a very valid point too. Anyone else on this topic of the on the agenda of the Upper Colorado River Commission appointment?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles. And, you know, I'm like the rest of you. I go back with Gene Shawcroft 30 years when he was working for the division. And I count him as a personal friend. I'm aware of his background coming off a ranch in La Jera, Colorado. He and I talk about bulls and raising cattle and family from over there. With that being said, I've also been involved with the Bear River for over 25 years and gone through 4 directors, and Todd Adams is as good as any, if not more so than the other directors. And I just, my conscience is having a hard time voting for the resolution. So I value both Todd and Gene very much. I understand the arguments for it, but I'm not sure I can support the resolution.
And that's entirely fine. Whether this resolution passes or whether it doesn't will be based on the vote that we'll have, and everyone is definitely entitled to vote the way you feel best you should vote. So I appreciate that, Charles. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just say, I appreciate all the wonderful words and the confidence and support of what I'm hearing. I appreciate that. We're going to make this the best thing that we can make it. As whatever you do going forward, we will make it work, and we will support the citizens of the state of Utah. We will support the Board of Water Resources. We will listen. So anyway, that's what I pledge to you all. And again, Charles, thank you so much for your kind words, and the rest of you.
Well, and we all are in this together. It's this water community. It's a very important resource, and we appreciate your efforts, Director Todd. We will need a motion on the Upper Colorado Commission. Is there anyone who, well, and you don't need to tip your hand right now. We don't have to have it right now, but I will need a second and a motion and a second to take a vote on this. We have been asked to vote on appointing Gene as the Upper Colorado Commission, so I will need a motion and a second on it.
You probably need to do it in 2 separate motions rather than one motion for both of them. So.
Yes, yeah, there will be 2 separate motions, one for the Upper Colorado and one for the Bear. So we're just talking the Upper Colorado right now. So I don't know if any of you right now want to commit to make a motion or just wait till the meeting or.
This is Randy. I'd be willing to make a motion.
Okay, Randy. Okay. We will go from there then. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about ratifying Governor Cox's appointment of Todd to the Bear River Commission. Director Adams, you want to give us a little background on that one, please?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, I've been the commissioner for two different things and have been appointed. And we just thought if we were doing the one, we ought to either redo or do the second one for both of them, just to make sure that you're still good with my services on the Bear River Commission and going forward. We're highly involved in lots of different things on both rivers, and we're excited to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any of the directors have any comment or questions for Todd on this one?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles again, and again, just to fill in where I left off. Todd is a class act in being the lead of water resources and one of 3 commission members, the lead commission member of the Bear River Commission representing Utah. And he's been involved with it for all the years I've been involved with it, which is pushing up near 30 years. And so it would be my honor to make a motion for him to be the Interstate Stream Commissioner on the Bear River Commission.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair and Charles, let's just make sure we're aware that I will be the Interstate Stream, assuming you do this, I'll be the Interstate Stream Commissioner for the Bear River Commission. We have two other commissioners. One is designated in the upper portion of the Bear River and one is in the lower portion. Our upper commissioner is Blair Francis, who served on this board, and the lower commissioner is Charles Holmgren, who is on the board. We have two alternates, Norm Weston and I apologize. Ryan Merrill from Cache Valley, that's an alternate commissioner also. So that's just some additional information.
Okay. So the specific motions on these, the one on that Randy will make on the Upper Colorado River Commission, I'm assuming then that based on what's on our agenda, that it would be to ratify Governor Cox's appointment of Utah's representative on the Upper Colorado River Commission, and that'd be the format of the motion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then on the Bear River, that Charles would make the motion to ratify Governor Cox's appointment of Utah's representative of Todd as the interstate representative on the Bear River Commission, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. No.
Okay. So just ratify his appointment of you on the Bear River Commission then for the motion.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that makes sense, Randy and Charles, on your motions then?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, good.
That works. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Okay, any other discussion on that item? And we will be moving that up right after the approval of the minutes. Any further discussion on either of those? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda that we'll go into is the feasibility reports. And the one we have under that is RE 443. It's Sunrise and Bench Irrigation Company in Wasatch County. Wayne, this is your area. And the project manager is Russell. So if we can go with that, and I show from what I was given that representatives from the company right now, for sure, we know that the president, Wade Klinger, is anticipated to be in attendance, possibly the secretary, possibly the engineer, but for sure Wade. So with that, Wayne, do you have anything you'd like to tell us on this? And then after that, Russell?
Just that Russell and I met with them up there, went over their project with them. They're in need of some help. I think it's a really good project, but I'll let Russell go into some of the detail with you. And then if there's any backup I need to give, I'll be glad to do it.
Okay. Okay, Russell.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. All right, so this is up in Woodland, up in Wasatch County. They irrigate about 430 acres. Water comes from the Provo River. Their main transmission line's about 70 years old, corrugated metal pipe, and it was badly damaged by a rock slide near the inlet, and it's in danger of completely failing. If they lose this pipeline, they lose their whole water supply. So the plan is, the request is to install 7,800 feet of 26-inch PVC pipe, and they'll also install a master meter and put in a new inlet screening structure. The cost of this is $1,220,000. They've got a $538,000 Water Smart grant, and they are requesting the remainder, 85% funding from the board, which would be $580,000. And staff recommends board authorize 47.6% of the project cost up to $580,000 and 0% interest over 25 years, payments of about $23,200. And that's staff's report.
Thank you, Russell and Wayne. Any questions or discussion on this particular project? Any of you have?
Does Wade have any comments?
Russell, that's a question for you. Does the president, is he going to have any comments?
Oh, does Wade? No, Wade doesn't have any comments. No. I thought you said
Okay. Is he going to be present for that meeting though?
As of yesterday, I understand he will be here, and their secretary Billy Sue will be here. I'm assuming their engineer Brian Dieter, he pretty much always comes to these meetings, so haven't talked to Brian, but I think they'll all be here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or discussion on this project? Okay, Wayne, this is your area. Are you willing to make a motion on this?
I'll be glad to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, we go into special items, and we have 3 different special items. The first one is project number RC059. It's Moon Lake Water Users Association. They're going to be requesting additional funding. It's in Duchesne County. This is Randy's area, and Ben Marett is the project engineer. As far as the list that I was given of those who we can anticipate will be in attendance, Moon Lake, Dax Winterton, the manager, it appears like indicated he will be to the meeting. It's possible that their board president, Kurt Christensen, will be there also, but Dex for sure, it looks like. So with that, Randy, if you'd like to give us an overview on this, and then Ben.
Mr. Chairman, it's just some dam rehab that they were doing on Twin Pots, and they ran into additional issues, which seems to always happen anytime you open up a dam. So I have no problem with it. If Ben wants to describe the changes and the reasons for them, appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy. So yeah, the Moon Lake Water Users Association came to the board in August 2018, and funds were committed at that time to rehabilitate their inlet and outlet works on the dam and to slip line their the pipeline. As Randy said, the project experienced a number of delays, mostly due to permitting, but it was completed this last summer. They have submitted all of their pay requests, and the project came in over budget, largely due to the fact that the contract bids came in above what was expected. And so they are seeking an additional $59,400 from the board to cover those overage costs. That's about it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Randy and Ben. Board members, you have any questions or discussion on this particular project? So the work's already been done, hasn't it, Ben, on this?
That's correct. The project is totally complete.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, board members, on this? Okay, Randy, this is your area. Are you willing to make a motion on this?
I'd be happy to make a motion on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on under special items is project RE417. It's Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company. This particular special item is for reauthorization and requesting additional funds as well. It's in Summit County, so it's Kyle's area, and Jaqueline is the project manager. And you will note in looking at the packet that we have staff's recommendation, and then it sounds like that Peoa will also be looking for a little bit of a modification on that particular recommendation, and staff has been good enough to go through and put that out for us up front. So be anticipating that staff will make its recommendation, and then there's an alternative recommendation that they have requested. I show that Dave Lake, their president, is anticipated to be in attendance. Their secretary, Sam Turpin, and their engineer, Brian Jeter, are likely but possible at this stage of the game. So with that, Kyle, if you'd like to kind of give us an overview, and then is Jaqueline with us? Yeah, Jaqueline shows she is. So between Kyle and Jaqueline, if you can give us an overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This again is one of the projects that I accompanied Jaqueline on back in 2018 when the project was first being looked at and proposed. And as indicated there, over the course of time, things have changed with cost estimates and those types of things. I had some concern when I first read the packet where they were going to be requesting additional funds above and beyond what was authorized and recommended by staff. And so I've not talked with the board, or excuse me, the company themselves. I did reach out to Jaqueline and ask for some clarifying information, which she passed on to me, that this is something that the board has done in the past on at least one other occasion where the applicant came in and requested more money than what was being recommended. And so I'll let Jaqueline talk to that and have further discussion on the project.
Okay, just so for a little bit more background, so this project was the board committed, so it was authorized back in January of 2019, and the board committed $1 million in August 2020 towards the original project, which was to replace approximately 3.3 miles of canal with a pressurized pipeline and construct a new screening structure and metering station. And we completed the contract, so they have a contract in place as of November of 2020. So in addition to and I will have maps available. So I have the new map in the packet, but I'll also have an older map in the presentation just so it can give you like a visual of what things changed. So in addition to the board's project, the applicant has been working on a project to replace laterals, and they received approximately $890,000 in grants for that project. Both projects are going to cost more than originally estimated. Therefore, they would like to expand the scope of the board's original project to include these the lateral project and request additional funds. The laterals are an integral part which will maximize their system, and their overall system will be metered and have telemetry. So the original cost was $2,246,000, which the board committed $1 million or 44.5% of the project cost, and this updated estimated cost is $3,843,000. With the proposed board share of $1,660,000, so they're seeking an additional $660,000. Since we already had that contract in place, and they're also having some funding issues, they would like to amend that contract to, instead of say 25 years, to extend it to 30 years, and then the additional $660,000 would come out of the C&D fund and be returned at 0.1 interest over 30 years. Are there any questions that I can answer for the board?
Okay, board members, any questions on that? I was just curious where the 0.1% interest number came from.
So back in 2012, there was a project, RE 269 for Cache Highland Water Association, where they had $2,200,000 come from the revolving construction fund at 0% interest, and $3 million from the C&D at 0.1%.
So that's something that we did in the past, and so the thought process was just use the same thing since we've already used that in the past. Then that's what it sounds like. Is that right?
And Mr. Chairman, this is Tom. That was my project. So if you have any more details, I can fill you in on that.
Okay. Okay.
And Blaine, this is Shalane. Can I speak to this a little bit to give the board a little more explanation? So, the board has a lot of leeway. We have your guidelines that we try to bring the recommendations to you, falling within those guidelines. Because this $1 million is already contracted, it's not just committed, it's actually contracted. We didn't feel like it was appropriate to move that to another fund. You already promised them 0% from the revolving fund on that $1 million. So we felt like it was appropriate for that to stay there. Now, the guidelines say that anything over $1 million should come from another fund and carry interest. But like I said, this was contracted. We have done in the past projects way over $1 million from the revolving fund when the revolving fund had plenty of money sitting in it, but we don't right now. So if you wanted to commit this additional all from the revolving fund at 0%, it would just put a real strain on the revolving fund, take us into the hole. So that's why we said, you know what, let's give them the least percentage that we can. We have to charge interest when it comes from the C&D fund. We can't give them zero interest money from the C&D. So we thought 0.1, keeps it as low as we can. We've done it in the past for other projects, which is why we've got this crazy, weird recommendation for you. And that's why, when the applicant is requesting 90% instead of 85%, again, that's the board's prerogative. They don't have to stick with what's in the guidelines, because the applicant has said, look, we're having a cash flow problem with everything that's going on here. Bills are higher than we were expecting. That's why they are requesting it's 90% of the non-grant portion instead of 85, which is what takes it up to the additional $758,000 instead of the $660 that staff is recommending. That's just a little more broad overview why we brought this to you the way we did. Thanks.
Thank you. That helps in my mind clarify that. Now, as far as logistically in the presentation in our board meeting, in the PowerPoint presentation, are you going to have both the recommendation that staff recommends, the first recommendation, and then the other one following, or are they going to be two separate slides, or how do you envision the logistics as far as presentation in the board meeting?
So the presentation just has the staff's recommendation on there. I just added the note because at the time that I spoke to them, they had stated that they would like to make that request from the board. So I had just included that in case they did ask for it. It's in your packet, but I can include that in an email so that you guys have that text more accessible, if that would be helpful, in case they do make that request.
Are you aware, are they going to make that request, or are they going to be content just with the recommendation that you have? Have you talked to them about it at all specifically?
Specifically about that, no, we haven't talked about that. I had a practice meeting with the president yesterday of the company to ensure that he's going to be able to connect to the board meeting. And he didn't mention that they would be requesting that additional 90% of the non-grant portion.
So if they don't request it, what is your recommendation, Shalane? Just go with the recommendation that's presented, right?
Yes, that's what, staff has their recommendation, like I said, that goes along with the board's guidelines. So if they don't specifically make their request, if they've decided, since they talked to Jaqueline about this, a month and a half ago, if they've decided what we've written up and are presenting to you is sufficient and don't make their own requests, then yeah, we would recommend you just stick with what's there and what will be on the slide.
Okay, thank you. Those were the questions that I had on this as I went through it. The questions I had. Board members, what other questions or discussion do you have on this?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle again. Would it be appropriate for us to reach out to them between now and the meeting to find out if in fact they are going to, so it makes it a little bit, I don't know, cleaner in the actual board meeting as to which approach we're going to take? I don't know whether that's appropriate or not.
I don't know either. I guess my seat of the pants response to that, me personally, and Shalane or Todd or Juliet and Jaqueline, any of you can add your input, but my my seat of the pants is go with what we've got. And if they say, hey, we need some help, we're in trouble, cash flow issues are there and all that, then at that point, maybe bring this other up. I don't know. If we bring it up to them before the meeting, I think it's guaranteed they will ask for it.
Probably. And my thought is that, like I said, this was a request Jaqueline had received from them as she was writing up her report. So we felt it was appropriate to put it in here to give you a heads up. But if they don't make the request at the meeting, I don't think it's necessary to bring it up. I don't think that staff needs to bring it up for them. We thought they might make this request, but I think they were getting, ultimately they got a better deal in our recommendation than what they were expecting. I think they thought they might be getting 1% on the additional funds where we offered 0.1. Maybe they've decided that's good enough and stretching the repayment to 30 years. So I think it's there for your information. But if they don't bring it up, I don't think it's necessary to even address it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. Shilton, thanks for that clarification. I think that's an appropriate way to approach it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on it that any of you would have?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles. I agree with what has just been discussed. And I look at the payback, and I think after this meeting's over today, I'm going to go out and kiss my canal.
Oh, your day's coming, and you've had it, and it'll come again.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussions on this? Okay, Kyle, this is your area. You willing to make a motion on this?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
And it sounds like that Jaqueline will email if they want an alternative, and we have the discussion and go with an alternative. She'll have that, but in the meantime, right now, the motion would be just what she'll present then.
Right. Staff recommendations, and if they have the discussion on the other, then we'll move to the staff comment portion in the book. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Under special items, our last item we have is project RE429. It's Cove Waterworks Company, and it seems to be kind of a common theme. They're here will be here recommending additional funds. It's in Cache County, Charles area, and Tom Cox is the project manager. As far as the information that I received, it shows like that a board member, Brett Christensen, will be in attendance. The secretary, Randy Larson, will be in attendance. And engineer Chad Brown will be in attendance. So with that, Charles, if you'd like to give us a bit of an overview on this, and then Tom.
Well, I will leave most of it to Tom. It looks like they were trying to go cross country with pipeline, and with the air vents that were required, it looked like they had to follow an alignment along a county road or city road. But Tom has had numerous discussions back and forth with the applicant, and he's copied me on all the email communication, so I'm quite aware of it and support it, but we'll let Tom get into it deeper.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is Tom Cox. Way back in the middle of 2019, when we received the application from the company, it only included improvements of their spring. That was their immediate need, and they needed to get work done then as soon as possible. But in talking with them, their 2-inch galvanized transmission lines seem to be in pretty bad shape. So we talked to them about including that in the project. So when the project came before the board in October of 2019, we committed funds for the spring work and the pipeline work. And it was the idea that the pipeline would just follow the existing old pipeline across a certain section of cultivated field. Comes to find out, the modern design with a larger pipeline required some air relief vents, and the farmer didn't want those sitting out in the middle of his field, so they decided to go along the city streets. And with working with my high school daughter in her trigonometry class, it turns out that the sum of the legs of a triangle are longer than the hypotenuse. So there was no more pipeline than was needed in the work, and also a couple more road crossings. And once they got into the work, they discovered that some of the service connections needed some work too. So the project cost more, about $75,000 more. And so they will be asking for about, well, an additional $63,700. They're keeping the same cost share percentage, 15 for them, 85% for us. So the repayment will be changed accordingly. It's 0% interest because it's coming from the revolving fund. And so we'll keep the 30-year repayment period. So their annual payments will go up a couple $1,000s per year. So that's the report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Tom. And you visited with them, and they're in agreement with the terms and everything on this then, is that correct?
Yeah, we talked to them yesterday, and they didn't indicate that they were going to ask for anything different.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, board members, any questions, discussion, clarification for either Charles or Tom on this project? Doesn't sound like there's any. So, Charles, this is your area. Are you willing to give a motion on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty straightforward, their request, and I am ready to make a motion.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, moving down the agenda, the next item on it is new applications. We received one new application since our last board meeting. It's project RE445. It's by Veo Culinary Water Association. It's down in Jim's neighborhood, down in Washington County. And Tom is the project manager on this. And it looks like they need to replace some old water storage tanks with new tanks. With that, things do tend to wear out on that. And we won't be taking any action on this today, but Jim or Tom, is there any quick items that you think need to flag for our attention on this one for down the road?
Tom's been working on that, but I have talked to them and looked over their pictures and their application, and it's the old metal tanks are leaking out of the rivets. I think around 10 gallons a minute. They're losing quite a bit of water. And so they need to go with the cement buried one instead of the two metal ones. Tom can maybe give you more enlightenment than I did.
Yeah, that's the gist of the project. They also are going to be increasing their storage capacity so they can meet the fire flow requirements in the area. So they'll be just replacing 2 steel tanks with a buried concrete one. I haven't met with them. Their engineer is just getting over COVID, so we'll plan on going down there in the next week or 2.
Go down where it's warm, only it's been snowing a little in some places down there. Keep it up, huh, Jim?
Yeah, we think we're Eskimos down here. Cold for us.
I feel for you. I really do. Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda would be Rachel will give us a planning report on Watershed Councils, just a little update and in the board meeting. And she's got a summary sheet in there, and you've probably already all had a chance to look over this, but Rachel, just quickly, is there anything you want to highlight on that? I know you're going to present it later, so we don't need to go through this at this time, but is there Anything in particular that you'd like to highlight for the board at this time?
Actually, this is Shalane. I told Rachel she didn't need to sit through this meeting, that she could just cover it. I know she was here before the meeting, but I mentioned that she could just cover this later. So yeah, I did want you all to know this is kind of a new format we started with the planning reports and the updates. We asked that the presenters prepare a short summary for your board folder. Since we're only taking public comments up to noon today, we thought it appropriate to actually start printing something, posting online. So if people had comments on these, they'd know what they were commenting on. So trying to get you guys more information before the meeting. So
thank you. I like that. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I'm just going to make that comment that that's a nice addition to the board packet to give us some information ahead of time so that we know what it is that's going to be discussed. On this particular item, I was just curious if what was the background for bringing this legislation forward? Todd or someone else, maybe perhaps you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh man, Kyle, sure. I'd be more than happy to, if Mr. Chair, if that's all right. This is long in coming legislation. About 3 years ago, I got the assignment from the Water Development, the Utah Water Task Force, or the Executive Water Task Force, as it's now called, as to work on developing a group to come up with Watershed Council legislation. The very next day, there was a Legislative Water Development Commission, and David Yor got the directive from the Council Commission to do the same thing. And I immediately called him and said, I'm done. Thank you. Glad you're at it. We'll just see what you came up with. He says, oh no, you bounder. We'll work together on this. And so we did. It took about two and a half years to finally get where we were. Legislation was passed last year, and the appropriate resources were given to the Division of Water Resources to get some outside help. So we've gone and done an RFP, and we've got some help in reaching out and getting these councils set up, whether it's the statewide council or the different basins for the basin councils. So that's where we're at. Rachel will give an update, but Kyle, that's kind of the backup on where this came from. Candace, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to add that it really came out of the 2017 recommended water strategy. And that's why these, the Utah Water Task Force and the Legislative Water Development Commission, looked at a number of those things and decided that sounded like a great idea. So go study it. And that's kind of what started it down the path. But Todd knows better than I do of how he got assigned to David Ure. So that was the only thing I was going to add. Thank you.
Thanks for that. They're adding, yes.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, the next item on the agenda would be the Lake Powell pipeline update, and Joel will give us there, and we've got what he's going to cover. Joel, is there any just highlights or anything you'd like to just very briefly give prior to then?
Just a question that is, as you board members look over the list of topics that I plan to address, if there was anything additional that you wanted me to cover or particular questions you had, let me know and I can add that to my presentation, but that's what I plan to cover.
You've got it in your question, but and you'll probably cover it, but I was curious if you've been given any indications from Teresa or the Division of Water Rights State Engineer on timeline on approving the change application.
We have not yet. We're still waiting to hear. Wendy Crowther, one of the attorneys that's been helping, that's very familiar with water rights, said she isn't surprised that we don't have a decision yet, but we did get a letter from them. We've filed an extension on the water right, and we got a letter back from them saying they need a little more information before they can extend our water right for another 40 years. So that's kind of a separate matter to the change application, but part of me wonders if that might be part of what they want to see that ironed out before they make their decision. But we've got until March 31st to file that additional information they need for that.
Okay, and then I also was curious, and there's probably not any concrete good answers, but with the new administration nationally, with President Biden freezing all decisions of all the different Department of Interior and all the other departments, putting a temporary freeze on all decisions, what impact, if any, that will have on this project?
For right now, we've still got the same team, the Bureau of Reclamation, that we're working with out of the Pro office. There's been no sign of slowing there. They're working busily. We do know that there will be impacts higher up, as we see the new Department of the Interior Secretary nominated, and that there could be that ripple effect throughout the Department of Interior of perhaps new faces within BLM, Reclamation, some of these other agencies that we work with. So we do anticipate that between now and May, there could be some changes, some new faces that we work with, and perhaps some delays depending on how that goes. But as far as the local team, fortunately, things are moving ahead, and we'll keep working at it and just wait and see what changes may occur.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions?
Joe, this is Wayne. Are you going to address anything about the legal challenges that the other basin states are thinking about going against the pipeline and some of this kind of thing? Are you going to address any of that?
I had not planned to, because I haven't been as directly involved in those discussions. Todd, do you have any insights you want to offer on that?
Wayne, Mr. Chair, if it's okay. Marty and I have been, mostly Marty has been working with the Upper Basin states on the exchange agreement, as well as touching on some of the other things. I will say that not much has happened as far as all basin issues, but we've been working with the Upper Basin folks on coming to some suggestions and some potential changes in the agreement. Marty's online. Marty, you could add to that if you'd like.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more, is we've been working with the Upper Basin states and the Lower Basin states, but primarily Upper Basin, to first identify the issues of concern that they have with the project, which we've got that completed. And now we're working through each of those issues, providing responses, giving them information. And I think we're pretty close to having what we need resolved in the Upper Basin, at least on a good chunk of the issues that have been identified. And hopefully by next week, we'll be setting this on to the Lower Basin, where they'll have an opportunity to weigh in on it and identify what other explanations they may need or that. And we've got a few more big things, the Big River issues as well, that we'll begin tackling probably next week, beginning in the Upper Basin. So it's moving along. I'm kind of new to this, Colorado River and the snail pace that it often seems to creep along at, but the people are great. They're cooperative. All the states are being very helpful, and I'm feeling positive we're going to come out with a good outcome.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, and we are just so excited to have Marty on our team and working with us and helping us through this. We couldn't do it without him. He's a great addition to our team. So.
Yes, he is. Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, the next item on our agenda is we will have a Bear River development report on right-of-way acquisitions, and Marisa has given us a little summary that will be covered in the board meeting, and you've seen that. Do you have any short highlights on that, Marisa, that you'd like to share prior to the board meeting?
We now have a place for Candace to house her horses. I'm kidding. No highlights.
Charles Farm, can't she?
No highlights. We're hoping we don't buy any more houses. There's some obligation that was felt as a letter went out saying we were directly to those owners. But that was over a year ago now. And I think we feel comfortable if someone were to call us that we would feel comfortable letting them know that we're adjusting our process a little bit. So, and we are in particular looking at, in some of those areas, looking to look at another alignment that doesn't go through houses. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Marisa on the status of the right-of-way acquisitions? Okay, then we will go to the director's report in the board meeting and then the adjournment. And of course, we will need a motion, a second vote on the adjournment as well. So that takes care of the board meeting. Let's go back to our briefing meeting agenda now. And we are now on item number 3, information to the board. And so Director Todd, if you can give us the information you have for that, please.
Sure. We'd love to. Joel is prepared to give us a quick update of the status of funds report. And then what we'd like to do is take a little bit of time and give you a legislative update. We presented to our committee yesterday. We'll give you an update of that, and then an update on water banking update. Sorry. Joel, can you take it off?
Yes, thank you. If we turn to the status of funds tab of the board folder, page 1, the revolving construction fund showed that at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had about $11.5 million available to fund projects. That money is being well used. And in fact, we anticipate with the projects we have in the queue that money will all be used. If you look down at the very bottom, including the recently authorized projects, that it does forecast perhaps going negative, but that does take into account that the payments are actually staggered as they go throughout the life of the project, and that it all does work out. But that money is well used. The city's water loan fund does have, we had about $8.6 million available at the beginning of the fiscal year, and right now just over $5 million still available. So we can keep our eyes out for additional projects that would be good candidates for this fund, which would be municipalities. The interest rate on this one, interestingly, can go between 0 and 7%. And so, whereas the Conservation and Development Fund is required to have an interest rate, as we discussed that project with the 0.1% rate, because that is a requirement. This fund, the City Water Loan Fund, can go down to 0, and that would be targeted towards perhaps a smaller municipality, one where maybe a water project is a big challenge for them and might put them over the affordability guideline. This would be a great one to pull in one of those projects. So just keep that in mind, that there is about $5.5 million available in that fund. And going to the Conservation and Development Fund on page 3, this is our largest fund, starting off the fiscal year with about $80 million. And seeing some of these larger projects, if you look at the American Fork City of $22 million, handling this is a great fund to handle those types of larger projects. The request or the item in the governor's budget that came out for the $18 million of additional dam safety funds would come also from this Conservation and Development Fund, but it does have that healthy amount of money in there. And as you can see, even with the planned projects authorized and committed, there is still some additional funding available. And as we know, as the recapitalization funds that will be paid off, there will be that additional money that will start to come back into the fund as well, as those funds are paid off next year. And so I think the C&D fund looks very healthy, and not really any concerns about being able to handle some additional large projects. So that's kind of a update on where we're at funding wise. And as you can see, Shalane did go in and add a date in the last column for each of these projects, because we did have some questions about, well, when was the most recent board action on these? And so you can see in that last column along the edge of the page, it does now show a date for those. So that's that's the status of funds update.
And let me just add to that. I've had a couple entities come talk to me about funding some other large projects that are out there. They haven't made application to the board, but there's a couple other places that could have some large funding requests coming forward also. So we're fairly healthy, but there's a lot of need. So. Okay, that's that report. Is there any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. Just to add the comment that I was one that requested the dates to be to be added to the report, and so I appreciate that being done, and it's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to our legislative update, Candace.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, and good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I guess I'm feeling similar to Blaine. Is I wish that we were all in the same room and being able to talk and be together and eat lunch and all those great things. So I hope you are all doing well. We have had a fun legislative session to start. It seems like the bills are maybe a little slower than last year in the number that are related to water. At the same point, there's always bills to watch and things to do. Just a couple of things to note, as Joel brought up, our building block for dam safety upgrades was in the governor's budget as well, recommended budget, as well as a legislative fiscal analyst recommendation. So that was the 18 million to really help keep our process moving forward and stay on our timeline with the expected dams that need to be rehabbed. So that was exciting. In addition to that, in the governor's recommended budget, there was an additional $5 million recommended, so it's not guaranteed by any means, recommended to us to get additional money for water efficiency and with the focus of secondary meters. And so we looked at that and said, well, what could we really do with that money that would save water? And we proposed potentially either providing grant funds, maybe at a 50% cost share to entities that would like to meter or install secondary meters. We also talked about potentially using some of the money to flip your strip as far as rebates, and if we could leverage local municipalities or water conservancy districts to help cost share, that we could use part of that money to help rebate that to encourage water-wise landscaping to be put in. And then in addition, potentially add a water loss audit training and additions to our slow the flow. So just a little bit of update on those things. As far as bills that we're watching, there are a few bills. One is HB 107, which is a subdivision plat amendments. And this was actually a Utah Water Task Force bill. It went through the task force, but it requires the owner of land seeking a municipality or county's approval for recording of subdivision plat to describe certain water conveyance facilities. And this is mainly to make sure that developers talk to canal company owners, irrigation companies, and that they have those discussions. That had a lot of discussion prior to this session, but it sounds like there's still some conflict between those parties. So we're kind of watching that. In addition, there's some outside legislation that we're watching is House Bill 98, which is a local government's building regulation amendments. And you might think, why do we care? Well, a lot of effort and thought has been put into the need to integrate land use and water planning, that these two things can't be done in a silo. And a lot of effort has been put into integrating land use and transportation planning. And so water is right up there with it. But this would essentially allow homeowners to hire their own building inspectors and and issue their own certificates of occupancy. It would also allow developers to opt out of site plan reviews and prohibit land use authorities from adopting or enforcing building design elements, including landscaping requirements. So if an entity wanted to have an ordinance to have a certain amount of water-wise landscaping or something like that, the developer could just do whatever they chose to do. And typically, one of our concerns with it is the default landscape is turf, which is also the most water intensive. So just looking ahead, how can we integrate these things? We're watching that one. There's also HB 144, which is a water pricing structure. So this bill requires retail water providers to consider lot size of customers in their pricing structure of water, and makes technical changes. So pretty much that if someone has a really big lot and are irrigating, that they would have a lower price than in the tiered rate structure, because right now they're getting they're paying more, because if they have a bigger lot, then they get into that higher tiered rate structure. I've heard there's some concern on this, not only from a conservation, we have a concern from the conservation element, but also just from, this is a local issue. There was a lot of discussion at the Legislative Water Development Commission when this bill brought up, was that this shouldn't be decided at the legislative level. This should be a local issue. So it'll be interesting to watch where that one goes. There's also HB 171, which is an agricultural land use regulation, which prohibits municipalities or counties from restricting the type of crop that may be grown in certain areas. Prohibits regulation by a municipality or county of an industrial hemp producer licensee in conflict with other statutes. So really no concern, just keeping an eye on it. There's also HCR 1, which is the concurrent resolution encouraging a balanced approach to release of water from Flaming Gorge. Todd has been in several meetings with Representative Chu on this one, and it was in the committee yesterday and was passed favorably out of that committee. So that's moving along. And then there's a HB 96, which is a Legislative Water Development Commission amendments. That we're not really concerned about it, just changes, modifies the quorum requirements and addresses the sunset date. So just kind of administrative cleanup. So those are the few that we're kind of watching and keeping an eye on. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, things are happening fast up on the Hill, as you all know, and Juliet used to be involved in it big time. I think they have until Friday to bring bills out, and then after Friday, it takes a committee to open a bill file. So we could see more bills come out today, tomorrow, and we're just keeping our eye to the grindstone. Candace is doing a wonderful job on that.
Good, thank you. Any questions for Candace on any of those?
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Please.
I'm actually, and I don't know, now might not be the time, and maybe we can just get briefed on this later, but do you have any insight? I think I read somewhere that there's some talk about combining DEQ and DNR, so the Department of Environmental Quality and the Department of Natural Resources. Is that
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the answer is I have not been involved in any of those discussions and dialogues. There has been discussion, I believe. I don't know where it's at. I believe there has been some waning support from it or with it. It was more than just DEQ and DNR. It included the Energy Office or Energy Development, Outdoor Rec, and the Public Lands Policy Office.
Wow.
Also. So, but there's discussion and dialogue going on probably as we speak. So.
Okay. I just know there's pieces of water over in DEQ, and so yeah, just keep us in the loop on how that kind of impacts us if it actually happens.
Okay. There was a confirmation hearing, a Senate confirmation hearing this last week where the new Commissioner of Ag and the interim director, Kim Shelley for DEQ, and Director Brian Steed had a confirmation hearing. It went well. They all voted unanimously for each and every one of those, and it was on to the floor of the Senate. So I don't know when the Senate will act upon that, but that's looking positive right there. So.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions on the legislative?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. I was just going to ask Todd, you alluded to the fact that you had your, was it budget hearing yesterday? And just curious as to how that went.
Well, I thought it went well. We got very few questions. The two questions we got were what's Page, Arizona doing with decommissioning their power plant and what they're going to do with their water right. I referred that one to the state engineer and said, you know, that's probably an Arizona water right issue, but they were looking at that. I also got a question was what was happening with the intake to Lake Mead. And they're working through some quagga issues down there. I gave a really quick presentation. I give a great shout out to staff for all their help in getting the information ready for this presentation. We talked about our funding building blocks. We talked about what we focus on and the return on investments of the board's projects. You've been appropriated $564 million in about 75 years and built $2.4 billion of water projects. So we talked about those successes. We talked about our year in review with water banking, our state water plan, Jordan River, our joint Bear River planning model, Bear River development, Lake Powell pipeline, demand management, you know, it just goes on and on down your sleeve. Water savers, water conservation, climate change, all of those things. Our per capita water use and the cool things that we've been able to do with our new annual value and looking at those things. Conservation goals, water conservation again, how we're going to meet our needs. And then we did a water supply report. We also talked about our weather modification, then went kind of into a weather report and, you know, talked about how we've come up so much, 10 or more percentage points less in less than a week. But Jordan will touch on that here in just a minute. Reservoir status, soil moisture, all of those things. So it was really quick. I thank staff in that. I didn't conclude again with how great the staff at Water Resources is and all the many things that they do. And you can see that as we're discussing these from my reports to Candace Joel's, Scott's, everybody that's been presenting today, just wonderful staff, and just so appreciate all that they do. I was kidding with somebody. They said, "Oh, you did a great report," and I said, "Oh, I'm just the talking head for all the other work that actually happens." I hope it was a great presentation, and it was positive. So,
well, thank you for that update, and good luck as you move forward. Just one other question. You mentioned confirmation hearings. Any update on the pending board appointment confirmations?
They're still working on it. I have not heard any updates. There's four of you up for reappointment. 3 have only been one term. 2 have been another. 3 have been one term, and 1 has been 2 terms. And I have not heard anything yet. So we're Darren Bird for the department has been working with the boards and commissions, and I haven't heard anything. So I can maybe get an update on that and we can respond in the board meeting.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Okay,
let's go to Candace on the water banking then maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we did have a 6-month water banking update, which we're really trying to focus it on the statewide water marketing strategy that is based on the contract, as well as the BOR Water Smart grant that we were awarded last year. So that is, and I meant to put it in the chat here for you, if you guys are dying for a bigger, longer, more comprehensive update, there's the YouTube link to that. So you're welcome to go listen in on that. Jaqueline presented kind of the current process of the board and how you guys review applications and in the process. And we're trying to make everything within the same structure as much as possible with these new applications. So Jaqueline has been doing a great job and is working with Emily Lewis from Clyde Snow, the project manager, on how to conform the water banking application into the current board process. And I believe they have requested, and I haven't heard exactly, but to be on the agenda for the March meeting to give you a more comprehensive update. I've also sent you it's a couple page summary of what's going on, but in general, they're making pretty good progress. They're focusing on the pilot projects at this point, and with the majority of the focus has been on price, just because it's had enough people interested to really push it forward and keep the discussions going. I think that will be interesting to see as, as this project, this is a 3-year project, but as this wraps up, water banks in general are locally driven. And so there will be a significant need for those interested to drive that process forward for them. So it will be interesting to see how that goes into the future, but we will have hopefully 3 pilot projects and applications that will be submitted to the board. They will be staggered, most likely. You will most likely see an application from Price, and I would think probably in the early summer months, maybe not the March board meeting, but maybe June. So that would be when I would expect an application to go in front of you guys. And then at next board meeting, I'm hoping to have Emily provide you a draft process of what it will look like, a checklist for you guys, and how that'll work. So you'll have that ahead of time, and then we can refine that process too. So that's just a really general update. Happy to take any questions. And yeah, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. Not a question, but just a comment. I logged in and listened in on that discussion last week, and for me personally, it was very informative. I thought they did a good job, both Emily and the part that Jaqueline had in her presentation. It's going to be interesting to see how all this matures and fleshes out. I remember, if I remember right, there were almost 100 people that were logged in and listening in on that conversation and presentation. So kudos to everybody, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Good. Any other questions for Candace on this?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren. I, too, like Kyle, listened in. I had a little trouble logging in, and I had to listen to it on YouTube. And I was amazed at, like Kyle was, how many people had logged into it, and apparently how many attorneys logged into it for their
CEUs.
CEUs, yeah, exactly. So that's all.
Okay, good. Anything else on that? Okay, thanks, Candace. Appreciate that. Director Adams, anything else on your report?
You know what? Since it's about 11:40, 11:38, let me just give you a little bit more. The Drought Reporting Committee met in the last little bit to go over the status of where we were set. It was decided by that Drought Reporting Committee for Director Steed to let the governor know that we are extremely dry. 75% of the state is in extreme drought conditions, and it would probably be good to make a drought declaration. Brian's working on that. I think he sent the letter up to the governor, and so just wanted you to know that that's in process. Laura Haskell has made a number of presentations to the Drought Reporting Committee, to the House Natural Resources subcommittee, or standing committee, and they're well aware and want to know what's going on. And so that process has been happening also.
Good. Thank you.
We'll maybe one other thing, and we'll touch on this in the director's report, but if I do a lot of these things in the director's report, we'll make the director's report shorter for the regular meeting. But the Utah Water Users Association has canceled or postponed the March meeting, and they will be holding Utah Water Users Workshop in St. George, May 17th through the 19th. We are still trying to work out logistics. If you would like to attend, please let us know. with the caveat that I'm still trying to check with what's the travel restrictions. I believe state employees are still not allowed to travel. And so we will be trying to work out how we're going to do that, whether we make presentations in person, virtually, or otherwise. So there's still a lot of logistics going on with that. It's just out there to maybe save a date or put those on your calendar. So, and I know some federal agencies don't have the ability to travel yet with COVID protocols. So
now, along with that, right now our May board meeting is scheduled for May 5th. If indeed they end up having it on May 17th, 18th, 19th, would we try to change our May board meeting to coincide?
That is the board's prerogative. If you would like to do that, we can do that. Again, I still don't know the travel protocol yet, and I'll try to get an update on that before our next meeting, or at least by our March meeting, so we can make a decision on that.
Okay. That sounds good. Anything else, Director Todd?
Looks like there may be a question from Jim.
Jim.
Yes, I had a question while we're talking about May 5th. Back in our Lake Powell pipeline meeting, I had brought that up, that it was a conflict with our board meeting, and it was mentioned the board meeting was going to be on the 6th. Is that different than what we've got in our handout, or do we still have a conflict for Joel and, well, there's quite a few, Joel and Director Adams and me and those that are involved with the Lake Powell pipeline?
Let me move over to my calendar and give it a look.
I think there you mentioned it'd been changed to the 6th, but it's still showing the 5th.
This is Kyle. I'm the one that created all of this problem because I represented the board on the CIB board. They have one the same date, and I'm the one that requested it to be moved off of that date, and so I thought we were moving it to the 5th off of the 6th.
Yeah, the board meeting is May 5th, and we have reached out, Jim, to the Lake Powell pipeline meetings that day, and we're trying to get those moved. Joel, are you still on here?
Yes, I am, Todd, and that is the case. We're still looking to the Lake Powell folks to move their meeting.
Okay, I just knew there was an overlap at the time.
Right.
Yeah, so as of right now, the meeting in May is on May 5th. We need to move, Lindsay, we need to move that on our calendars, but yeah, it is on May 5th.
Okay, thank you. Board members or staff members, is there anything else that we need to cover in this briefing meeting before we adjourn? Okay, it doesn't sound like there is. The board meeting will be electronic, the same link we can log in. It will begin at 1 o'clock. Encourage you to log in just a little bit early to make sure that you can work through any issues which might arise. For this briefing meeting.
Blaine?
Yes, Shalane.
Sorry, this is Shalane. Just a reminder that you don't have to log off. You can go ahead and mute your sound and video and just leave it connected, so you don't have to worry about logging on again if you don't want to.
That's true. That is true. Thank you. With that, again, appreciate everybody's work, assistance, everything that's going on. I think it's been readily apparent of all of the different things in the water community that are going on right now, and water is the lifeblood of the state. And to me personally, it's exciting to be able to be involved in that, to continue to be involved, and I appreciate all of staff's support, all of the board members, everything everybody's doing. And we will close this meeting now, and we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock. Do I have a motion to?
Mr. Chairman, maybe before you do that, if it's okay, there was something said earlier. I just want to clarify. maybe Charles will kind of slap me around for saying this, but I heard Charles was going to kiss his canal. I've seen his canal, and I wouldn't kiss it. So, I'm glad he will.
It's a little bit grungy, is it, here and there?
It's a nice looking canal, but I wouldn't kiss it.
Well, I just can't afford some of these assessments some of these other guys are paying. It amazes me.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's good. Do we have a motion to close this meeting?
So I would make a motion.
Okay, Jim made the motion to close the meeting. Do we have a second?
Second, this is Kyle.
Kyle makes a second. Okay, do we have any discussion from the board prior to taking a vote on the motion to close the meeting? Okay, if not, we'll take a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert. Is Juliet not with us? Shows she's with us.
I'm here. I agree. Vote in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you, Juliet. Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norm Johnson.
Aye.
Lower Colorado River, Jim Lemon.
Yes.
Okay, the voting's been unanimous in favor of the motion to adjourn the meeting, close the meeting. So the meeting is now closed. It is 11:46 by the clock on my computer. Appreciate each of you. We'll reconvene for the board meeting at 1 o'clock. Thank you.